Um, so yeah, we're Central Texas. My name is Roger Hill. We also have Jordan, Leisha, Sarah, Evan, and Brian on our team, and this is our presentation. Next slide, please. So this is where we kind of left off our presentation last time, at least for like our part one. We laid out our individual systems. We had our railway system for human infrastructure, then our green corridor for green, and then we had our dams we deconstruct, and we just kind of showed how they interacted. Moving forward, we kind of did an infographic showing the impact and the phasing of these systems. We'll start with the green system. There are three different steps. We have phase one, which is for 2025, phase two, which would be for 2050, and then phase three for 2100. And for here, we wanted to look at the grayed out areas are refineries, and then their threat radius, which could be the anything from airborne smog to even water agents or just leaking pollutants into the water systems. So for phase one, we wanted to try to focus on the Gulf Coast of Texas and try to consume about at least 10% of that and repurpose it into green space for just carbon consumption and also for monarch habitats. For phase two, we wanted to push farther in from the coast of Texas and then try to get at least 40% done. And then for 2100, we want to obviously have all of those threats to at least under control and then repurpose into green space. So for total square miles, we had 58,370 square miles, which by 2100 will be converted into green space, which could then consume up to 80 million tons of carbon into the biomass. So that was the main impact and focus for the green system. And then for a blue system, we have, which is at the very bottom, we had three phases in the same years. We started with looking at how many of the dams we wanted to deconstruct in phase one. So we focused on these four areas and the impact of those dams being deconstructed into key lining prototypes to hold water upstream and then also to reduce flood impacts and hazards on surrounding populations. So if we were for phase one, we plan to have at least 15% by focusing on these four locations near metropolitan areas, which would then service about 33% of the total people in the threat in areas that are that might be induced to flood from a dam being broken. So definitely like a two to one impact we saw for that. And then for our P2 phase two for 2050, we wanted to deconstruct at least 55% of those, which would mainly border all these major metropolitan areas, and then have an 83% of the population then now safe from any dams breaking. And then obviously by 2100, we want to deconstruct all of those so that the system will be resilient and we could hold more water upstream for evacuation times. And now I have Jordan kind of talk about our human infrastructure.
Okay, yeah. So for human infrastructure, we're trying to develop a hovercraft system and a rail system to evacuate people in any type of medium level or high level disaster risk. For phase one in 2025, we would mostly have the hovercraft system like fully integrated with about probably about three-fourths of the ports that we'd want to integrate in some of the major population hubs in Texas and in Central Texas. Um, in 2025, we could probably get it to where we could maybe evacuate around like 8,000. It just depends on the type of hovercraft used and the like how much the technology advances until then. Part two, we're thinking more like 80,000 once we get it like fully developed. And then that's when we would start developing the light rail. Um, for the light rail, it would mainly just be the major branches of the rail system to the major population hubs. And in 2050, we believe we could get 550,000 people evacuated. And this is all in under 10 hours. And then For the 2100, like a fully developed with full speed and everything, the hovercraft would be about 320,000 people in under 10 hours, and then the rail system would be about 1.9 million. So we believe we get a good amount, especially on the rail system. I think that would be our priority, and then the hovercraft would mainly be used to ferry people short distances, or even just like to the rail system, or even to just like a slightly safer zone. Um, and then kind of on the right shows kind of like a breakdown. I think the light rail is supposed to be more about 13% of how many people we could evacuate in 10 hours of the necessary people in Central Texas. The hovercraft could be about 2.1%. I know it seems low, but I mean, everything counts. And then the majority of it would still be like car or alternate evacuation techniques. So that's about it for my human part.